Welcome to a very festive bumper episode of Swap. We're on the Christmassy banks of the River Thames at the South Bank Centre's Winter Festival, and here's what's coming up on the show. Living in La La Land, why firms are turning their backs on Silicon Valley and heading to Los Angeles' Muscle Beach.
Right next to that guy in Venice Beach pumping iron is a guy in his laptop coding.
Our very own Santa's little helper has been rounding up the year's must-have gadgets.
Bad chip. Anyway, man's best friend just got an upgrade. Watch out, Rex.
We'll be looking back at the year in gaming. It's been quite a ride. And later in the show, I'll be speaking to the man behind the Raspberry Pi. He's not a chef. He came up with this. It's a £25 computer that's been revolutionising the way children learn to code. But first, and it might seem like a bit of a jump, let's go to California. I hear the beaches are great there, especially for tech firms getting bored of Silicon Valley, as our man in LA, Gav Milam, has been finding out.
There was a time when Los Angeles was, well, not taken very seriously. Yes, they made movies, they had beaches, but the important grown-up stuff was all done 300 miles north, in San Francisco. In terms of the technology scene, LA was a bit of a joke. But things are changing in La La Land.
Over 100 million people use Snapchat every day because they feel...
The social media giant Snapchat doesn't just promote itself with pretty pictures of LA cool. The company is based close to Venice Beach, the place that used to be famous for one sort of silicon, now a growing destination for the other. More than £2 billion in funding for new firms this year alone, a six-fold increase in 4 years. Behind this laid-back exterior, serious things are happening.
Right next to that guy in Venice Beach pumping iron is a guy in his laptop coding. Snapchat, of course, is based in Venice. Aside from all the stereotypes of LA and movies and palm trees and actors and the beach, there's a real tech scene here.
Michael Schneider picked LA for his startup, an app called Service, which takes complaints from angry customers and tries to resolve them with the company concerned. So why do that in LA?
Have you been outside today? No, kidding about the weather aside, LA is a fantastic place to build a tech company. First of all, you're still in California. You're 3 to 4 hours door to door between here and anywhere in Silicon Valley. Secondly, LA is much more diverse than San Francisco. A lot of engineers and people involved in tech startups enjoy having a life outside of just tech.
The big players realized a while ago that Silicon Beach was worth a look, and it is hard to miss Google's headquarters here. There's been a steady move south ever since, and with that has come an economic windfall. In fact, those who monitor LA's tech boom say Snapchat could make 2017 very prosperous all round.
They're rumored to be heading for an IPO in March, and that IPO will value them at $25 billion. So that $25 billion will go to hiring people locally, will go to making a lot of folks rich, and oftentimes that money gets recycled into reinvesting into tech companies, which could also benefit the LA tech industry a lot. And then Snapchat may acquire local companies, and so there's sort of an echo or knock-on effect from that huge infusion of cash into Los Angeles.
That, anyway, is the hope for Silicon Beach, and they can look on the bright side. If it does all go wrong...
Our team is the elite of the elite.
There's a new Baywatch movie out next year. Gav Murphy, Sky News, Los Angeles.
This is a giant Nordic gonk. They're said to be very close to Santa Claus. We love unwrapping a bit of gadgetry at Christmas, so we asked Sky's technology gonk, Tom Cheshire, to review a few tech-related stocking fillers.
Ho, 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 and a merry Techmas, one and all. Our gift guide this year has a twist, in that we're going to tell all the big tech trends of the year through varyingly affordable gadgets. First, everything this year got hacked. Botnets, power stations, politicians, Tesco Bank. There's also a massive shortage in the cybersecurity job market in the UK. So, for the budding programmer in your family, take a look at this. It's called the Pipergraph. It's a computer you can build yourself. It comes with a screen. You've got a Raspberry Pi here as well. I mean, there's rather a lot here, but for an expert like me, it's comparatively easy to assemble. And voila, a working computer. Now, second on the list, tech companies have presented us with all sorts of new user interfaces this year, whether it's Snapchat Spectacles, Apple's AirPods, or the voice-controlled Amazon Echo. So this is the Roly touchpad. Basically, you can connect it to your iPhone, then use it to make your own beats. That's some acid bass that I'm going to spend my holidays practicing, but you can also put it on learn mode, and then you get it. That is much nicer inside. Well, drones continued to proliferate, bothering members of the public and airplanes coming into land. And now they can do more than just fly around. This small parrot drone has a grabber attached to it for reasons that escape me, but you can bother people with that if you like. And last but not least, the march of artificial intelligence and automation has been a big theme, whether it's robots stealing jobs or worries that machines will become as smart as humans. But I prefer dogs anyway. You might have heard Chip just then. He is made by a company called Wowie in Hong Kong. Hey, Chip, sit. OK, he's now barking at me. I'm going to throw him a ball. Bad Chip, bad Chip. Anyway, man's best friend just got an upgrade. Watch out, Rex.
I love that dog. But 2016 wasn't just about those must-have gifts. What about the inventions, the gadgets, the breakthroughs that hadn't even happened this time last year? Here's Stu with a roundup.
The world's biggest rocket. NASA fired up the Space Launch System booster at a test facility in Utah in June. And this is a 2-for-1 entry in our list. The reason you can see the blast in such detail is thanks to a new NASA camera. The first piloted solar-powered helicopter flight. A group of students at the University of Maryland made aviation history. They made 2 flights, about a foot off the ground, lasting around 9 seconds each. The video game that took the world by storm. Pokemon Go got gamers out of the house by combining the virtual world with the real world. Europe's largest floating power station. 23,000 solar panels mounted onto floats. The water keeps the equipment cool, which makes all the tech more efficient, and it's a space saver. The facility is built on a water treatment works near London. Virtual reality was probably the tech theme of the year. High-end VR headsets like Oculus Rift, HTC Vive and PlayStation VR all came out in 2016 in the battle for what could be the future of entertainment. The world's first contactless payment ring. Curve, that's K-E-R-V, caught Swipe's collective eye when we saw it at London Tech Week in June. It's ceramic, so it's waterproof and it never needs charging. And we'll finish as we began, in space, with this ambitious 7-year space mission. NASA's OSIRIS-REx will try to collect dust from a 500-metre-wide asteroid to tell us more about our solar system. The mission blasted off in September.
We take our science and tech seriously at Sky News, and we've got some of the best journalists in the business. Sky's science correspondent Thomas Moore and technology correspondent Tom Cheshire have dived deep below the Atlantic, toyed with miniature trains and gone out of this world just to bring you the best stories.
This is Sky News London. How do you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
It's not a job for the squeamish. One drop of a scorpion's venom can kill a man, but now scientists are collecting the toxins in the hope of saving lives.
Well, this is a very strange sensation. I'm used to running on a treadmill, but of course gravity would normally pull me down.
This contraption simulates what it might be like to run in zero gravity.
I can work in any orientation I like, really, and it doesn't matter whether I talk to you upside down or the right way up.
Chris Froome won't be losing any sleep.
Absolutely no idea why anyone would do this for fun.
Computers have beaten humans at chess and, earlier this year, the board game Go. They haven't had as much luck here at the card table though, but it's getting there. So Sky News set up a match. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Heads Up Texas Hold'em, man versus machine. Facebook has been scanning and tagging us in photos for the last decade.
You're clear to dive. Dive, dive, dive.
Coral reefs are the rainforests of the sea.
25% of all marine species live around here. That's 800,000 in all, and that is why coral is such a good indicator of ocean health.
Putting more systems online offers hackers more things to attack. This iCub here has legs and it can balance. You can even give it a little shove, and it'll stay on its own 2 feet.
These are Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, the species spreading the Zika virus. Now these are male, so they shouldn't bite me. They're no threat to me.
This might actually be limited in how many shots we can get.
That's it for part 1 of our very festive bumper episode of Swipe. Here's something to keep you thinking in the break. What tech product was on fire this year? Literally. Answer coming up in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back to our Swipe Bumper Christmas Special. In a moment, we'll be looking back at some of the year's biggest moments in gaming. But before the break, I asked you what tech product was on fire this year. And the answer, you guessed it, Samsung's Galaxy Note 7. Now, this is the Raspberry Pi. It's become a genuine British tech success for the way it's been helping children learn computer science. I went to meet the company's founder, Eben Upton, for a chat about the tech industry, his CBE, and we even touched on rock stars. But I began by asking him what his favourite moment of the year had been.
I think my favourite moment in 2016 was launching Raspberry Pi 3, which we did on the 29th of February, our 4th birthday.
How would you explain Raspberry Pi to somebody who'd been living on another planet for the past few years?
A Raspberry Pi is a credit card-sized little bit of printed circuit board, a little green bit of printed circuit board. You plug it into your television, you plug a mouse and a keyboard into it, and plug a mobile phone power charger into it to give it a little bit of juice. And then it's a regular PC.
The Pi is known for being small. It's come a long way since Eben's early model.
That's a Raspberry Pi from 2006.
We're basically looking at the inside of a computer, right?
Yeah, that's right.
And now you've shrunk that right down.
That's 2016 Raspberry Pi, so 10 years later. This is something like 1,000 times as powerful as that. It costs the same, so it's still a £25 computer.
How big has Raspberry Pi become now, since you first launched?
We thought if we could sell 10,000 Raspberry Pis over the lifetime of the product, that would be fantastic. In September this year, we celebrated our 10 millionth.
The Raspberry Pi Foundation is a charity and runs a network of code clubs in the UK. What do you think is the biggest problem in Britain right now with computing?
For me, the biggest problem in computing in the UK right now is the lack of government investment in teacher training. So wonderful things have happened over the last few years in terms of our curriculum. We've gone from having a curriculum that teaches you how to type, 3 or 4 years ago, to a curriculum which is really robust and really rigorous and has some really good computer science concepts in. Unfortunately, that's been a fantastic achievement for the government. Unfortunately, it hasn't been matched by the scale of investment in teacher training.
Now, looking back on 2016 as a whole in the tech sector, what are your thoughts?
It's been a good year for tech. I mean, we've had some ups and downs. We've had some exploding phones. We've had some... personally, I'm a little disappointed by the direction that some of the surveillance stuff is taking, the Investigative Powers Act that's gone through. If you look at the list of agencies who are able to go look at your metadata, it's absolutely enormous. And so there's this concern that we're kind of drifting. Some of the openness of the internet may be drifting away. Some people
would argue if you've got nothing to hide, what's the problem?
I think it's disappointing if the burden of proof is in that direction.
And you've certainly had some ups this year, a CBE.
So it's a lovely bit of recognition for the people in the organisation, and also hope for the community, the 800 or 8,000 people out there in the community who are doing awesome stuff with the Raspberry Pi.
And what are you expecting to see in 2017 in tech?
I'd like to see Tesla making good progress towards getting the Model 3 out the door.
Would you ever make a move into transport?
I think it's one of those things that that just requires vast amounts of money. It's one of the most exciting things that's happening in tech. You kind of wonder if in 20 years' time we'll be looking back on this era of petrol-powered cars as being sort of like we now look back on the kind of world of horse-drawn cars. So it's one of the most exciting things, but I don't have a spare $1 billion to go and do anything
You're not
about
ruling it out, though.
I'm not ruling it
Not
out.
yet.
If someone wants to give me $1 billion, I will happily go and build them electric cars.
We often hear people say that tech stars are the new rock stars. So which rock star do you think you're most like and why?
You get these guys like Don Henley they're just good at something and they end up being the front man because there was just a particular thing they were good at. And that's what I'd like to be. I'd like to be somebody who's just good at engineering.
The drummer's always in charge, though, really, aren't they?
Well, that's it.
Everyone else is following.
That's it. People always tell jokes about the drummer, but without the drummer, it's not really a band, right?
It's been a huge year for gaming. From the rise of VR to surprise game announcement, there have been so many memorable moments. So we assembled a top team of reviewers to give us their pick of the bunch.
2016 has been a huge year for AAA games, which are kind of like the blockbuster titles of the games industry. First up, we had this game called Uncharted 4, which is the final instalment in Nathan Drake's bombastic, crazy adventure series.
For those who prove worthy, paradise awaits.
And it's a game that just oozes with narrative, story-driven gameplay and gorgeous, kind of bombastic action sequences. After that, we had a game called Dishonored 2, which is a stealth-driven game where you play as an assassin called Corvo or his daughter, Emily Caldwin. There's a lot of choices that you have to make, a lot of moral decisions, but it's really the gameplay design where this really stands out. It's got some of the most gorgeous levels I've seen in 2 decades of playing games. Last but no means least is a game called Overwatch, which is a multiplayer shooter, but it's a shooter with a difference. It's a shooter that really requires team play and strategy and working with other people more so than any other. And it also has these characters that are from a whole range of countries, a whole range of ethnicities, a whole range of sexualities, and I think that's just brilliant.
There has been a lot of AAA games come out this year, but for me the best stuff happening story-wise is really coming out of independent studios. And 2 games which really stood out for me are Inside and Firewatch. Now in Inside, it manages to tell this amazing storyline without a single line of dialogue or narration. And you really wouldn't catch like a Call of Duty game doing that. Everything is told in Inside through like these little background things that you see and little clues that you pick up on, and basically done through 2 buttons, which for me is such an amazing way of telling like a really chilling storyline, and I still haven't stopped thinking about it. The other game is Firewatch, where you play a character who doesn't shut up.
Someone broke in.
Hey, what?
They wrecked the place, threw my typewriter out the window.
He talks a lot, and he's taken a job, a really isolated job in the middle of nowhere.
Just losing my mind.
Watching out for fires in this forest. You're never quite sure what's going on as you try to unravel a mystery, or how much you can actually trust the guy that you're playing. But I just think Inside and Firewatch, for me, are doing things with story that the AAA games aren't even coming close to.
2016 hasn't just been about the games themselves, it's also been massive for hardware. After decades of speculation, we finally have not 1, not 2, but 3 real working VR headsets in the shape of the Oculus Rift, the HTC Vive, and the PlayStation VR. Though early sales were promising, with Sony in particular unable to have supply to meet demand, I think we've yet to see the killer app that will make these have staying power. Also, on the hardware front, Sony released a souped-up version of its PS4, the PS4 Pro, that saw sales triple in the first week in the UK. Microsoft is going to replicate this next year with the Xbox One Scorpio. And finally, after lots of speculation, Nintendo revealed its new console. It's a console-tablet hybrid called the Nintendo Switch. More details on that will be coming in January.
There have been some really incredible announcements to come out of 2016. So first of all, Red Dead Redemption 2. Because if you think Westworld was the thing that made cowboys cool again, nope, it was Rockstar Games back in 2010 with Red Dead Redemption. We don't really know much about the sequel, but if it's anywhere near as good as the first game, then we are going to be in for a treat. That's coming out next year. There's also going to be The Last of Us Part 2. So it took the kind of classic post-pandemic tale and crafted a really emotional story that really sticks with you. So they've announced that there's going to be a sequel, which I'm really looking forward to. And finally, Death Stranding. So Hideo Kojima, a famed game designer, has worked on Metal Gear Solid for like upwards of 20 years now, but now he's kind of free and is making his first game outside of Konami. He's got Guillermo del Toro, he has Norman Reedus, Mads Mikkelsen, he's got this all-star cast. It's going to be crazy. I'm really excited to see what that's going to be like, and these are all going to be coming out hopefully next year.
We're nearly at the end of our Swipe Festive Special. We've looked back on the year in tech, but what we really need to do now is look back on the year in Swipe. So here's a mini mashup of some of our 2016 tech adventures.
The wireframe model shows my movement, and then layers are added so the designers can turn me into any character they want. Maybe not the scariest orc. Hopefully the finished product is a bit more fearsome than I am.
One of the benefits of this setup is its flexibility. The virtual cabin can be easily inflated and deflated, so it can be packed up and moved between bases.
Just how much of an advantage can e-bikes like this one bring you?
Well, firstly, they come with integrated motors, making the sport more accessible to those who may need a little pedal assist.
The car isn't for sale yet. BAC's still durability testing the prototype, and you could say I got to help with that in my own way.
You've heard the expression, he's off in his own little world.
Got him.
Well, I'm taking that to new extremes. Thanks to virtual reality, I'm quite literally the king of my own little castle.
How'd I do? Now this is something anyone can have a go at. As I'm cycling, the movements I'm making are powering the fridge behind me.
NASA is planning on sending humans to an asteroid by 2025. And engineers here at Airbus are among those working with scientists around the world to make those difficult missions possible.
Your character is a neuron. Okay.
Controlling a computer with the power of my mind.
Do you see the cursor or the light here?
This wearable neurotechnology allows me to play these games without moving.
It's basically a big tube of cold with temperatures as low as minus 140 degrees C. And of course, I'm going to have a go.
If you want to watch any of those episodes in full, you can see all our shows on demand in the usual places. Now that brings us to the end of our Swipe Festive Special. We'll be back in the new year. Hope you can join us then. Bye-bye.